Back right before I launched the stream. Okay, anyway. Okay, so back to the first code. OBS. Settings. Oh yeah.
See you now.
What?
On stream.
Oh, now the stream starts. Right before I launched the stream. Okay, anyway. Okay, so back.
We in business.
Alright. So, I am not quite sure what is going on at the moment, everyone who's listening. There was a big little bit of a glitch. We tried to launch the stream several times. Yeah, we tried to launch it several times. I think now it finally worked. I have no idea what actually was streamed and what wasn't, which is always fun. So...
Alright. So, I'm not quite sure what is going on today.
And why do I hear myself?
Because I was checking to make sure you could hear us on the stream.
Okay, perfect. Alright. So, because I'm not sure how much actually was streamed, I'm just gonna basically just say again, if you have the next couple of hours off and you are looking to play some Imperial Assault, remember that the Oceanic Vassal Seasonal Tournament Jetpack Cup, which I've said about 10 times now in the last 10 minutes, it is now available, or rather, it is still available to be registered for. And it starts in 3 hours. The prize support is, for participation, a Luca Canloa alternate art card, actually painted by one of our own committee members. The top 4 prize is a Get Behind Me alternate art card. And if you win, you get a medal commemorating your success. And yeah, we are now finally live. Sorry about all of the mishaps and everything, but we are now finally live, and we will jump right into it. So, as I said, I'm joined by 2 wonderful people today. We have Jake, and we have David here with us. How are you 2 doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah, I'm doing well. Very, very well. Yeah, very well, thank you. And you, David?
Yeah, excellent.
Excellent. Glad to hear
Good day
it.
for a tournament.
It is, or good night, rather, for us. But yeah, no, so it should be good. So what I wanted to talk about, so David, you and I, obviously were on the Built on Hope podcast together, and Jake, you and I were on the steering committee together. So, I suppose before we dive into our expectations for the general tournaments coming up, what has surprised you about Season 4 in the playtest period? What figures did better than you thought they would, or worse than you thought they would? And that's directed to both of you.
The shore troopers do unfortunately poorly, and I don't know why, because they're really solid.
Yeah, that one struck me as well.
I'm not so surprised at the shore trooper performance. I think they look really solid compared to old baseline stats for 4-point Imperial units. You know, that move speed and the dice and everything. But I think that the defense profile and health profile is slightly up, and that's just barely pushing them, you know, into that realm of being able to flub, doing much damage.
Interesting. So, I think that's a very fair point.
I think it's also worth pointing out, though, that a lot of it comes down to what you do with them, because I've been wildly successful with them, and the mortar trooper.
Yeah. Yeah, and same here. I mean, whenever I run a Chronic list, they're basically an auto-include for me. So I think they do very well, but I do also think that... I think what David said there was right spot on, because unlike some other figures that we make in IACP, they aren't that easy to play. You know, they kind of have the same intricacies of the Jet Troopers, which still are a relatively easy to play unit, but compared to some others, I think a lot of IACP cards are pretty straightforward in the way they work, whereas because the shore troopers are a little bit niche in that way, they are faster than jets, but also slower, depending on how you factor the attack in. And they have longer range, and they do have reroll, but you have to position better. Because with jet troopers, obviously, you don't care about any type of terrain, you just fly over it. And as long as you attack someone within 2, you get 3 dice. Whereas with shore troopers, you get 2 dice always, which you get to reroll them if you position well enough.
Correct, and they get to spot for a big 3-dice attack that also has a lot of command cards to wreck a back line.
Oh yeah, I mean that mortar has done disgusting things in the past, and it will do disgusting things again.
I think you do have to remember that a lot of the times jets are gonna pull off a fuel upgrade
Yeah,
pretty early, so they'll for that round they'll be incredibly defensible and much faster, I guess, than shores.
that is true. That is true. Whereas the shore troopers, yeah, exactly. I mean, they were designed. I'm not sure if you remember this, Jake, but back in our internal playtest period when we were designing the cards, they were broken. Because what we did essentially is that we designed them to be even better stormtroopers. So they were 8 and 3 for 3 of them. And what happened was that when you ran 2 sets of stormtroopers and them, it became so ridiculously oppressive. That compared with the overpowered Krennic we also had early in production. Yeah, I do still think that they work. So any other surprises that you guys saw? Or things that you thought was surprising? So
Really?
just everyone watching, I've got the complete stats for season 4 in front of me, which we'll be taking a look at while discussing.
I ended up really liking the E-Web, which I was not expecting. At first glance, I thought it was pretty horrible. I don't know, I just wasn't sold on it at all, but I don't think I kind of used it as intended. I mean, I love the thing, but
Yeah.
not in a standard list, yeah.
Do you prefer it with Lion Ambush or with the Overwatch card we designed for it?
Definitely Lion Ambush. And then 3-act with the 4th as the E-Web. I think it just gives you so much firepower for that 5 points.
So when I was looking at Lion Ambush list for acts after your podcast episode, I was thinking that a set of elite stormtroopers for 7 points plus 1 could also put out that kind of firepower. What do you think of that?
I think that's true, and I think they move a little better. But the thing is, it's hard to make the other half of your list strong enough to push them back if you start cutting off points. I mean, it is just a 2-point difference, but those 2 points could be kind of extra armor, doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Vader double jets, double extra armor, all of the things that you want, and you've got enough for the Lion Ambush E-Web. I think there are a lot of good options for that last one. This just minimizes the kind of off the board investment that you have to make in the beginning.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I've given them a try a few times. They're very fun, I'll put it that way. They are very fun and they reward good positioning, which is something I really enjoy seeing in new figures. Any figure which says, if you know how to position well, you're going to play this figure well, that's just a good thing to have in the game. Because ultimately, if you have too many, this is just my opinion here, if you have too many just really all-around solid melee units, then positioning isn't quite as important. So that's something I do like about the design, but they are tricky to play. I mean, I've played them several times and I haven't played them enough to be able to do well with them, which I think is probably the reason why we aren't seeing them much, because they're not very beginner-friendly, are they?
Oh no, they're so awkward.
Yeah.
If you're trying to play 4 activations and an E-Web, your list is some kind of weird koala platypus hybrid thing.
That sounds adorable.
Good, that's what I was going for,
Yeah, so, I mean, looking at its stats, it's only got 9 matches played. I mean, there are probably more that just haven't been recorded, but 9 matches played is, that's not a lot. It's not a lot. Actually, am I looking at the wrong data here? Because 9 looks...
I'm looking at the 4.0 plus 4.1 combined results. The next
Huzzah!
tab over.
Huzzah! That should be the one. Let's see, so...
Yeah, if you move over one more tab, then you can get a good look at the entire meta.
I see, there we go. Okay, so... Looking for the... Not short troopers. Ewa mentioned, there we go. Okay, so we have 16 unique appearances, 9 matches won, 21 matches played. That's a lot better. Looking at the win rate, 42.86. I think that's okay for this unit, just because, again, it is such a difficult to play one. I would be worried if it did have a higher than 50% win ratio from release.
Right, it's a technical unit that you have to work at to make it really work.
Exactly.
So if you look up a little bit, you see Ahsoka Tano has a very similar stat line, but we all know that she's a technical character that requires a lot of skill to play.
Exactly.
So, but nobody's saying Ahsoka is broken.
No.
Or is underpowered.
Precisely.
Slight awkward silence while we think about whether we agree with that, but I think I do.
All right, so a bit of a controversial one. Darksaber. Thoughts? I think I know David's thought on this. I also know Jake's thought on this, and I think you two are going to disagree, which is just entertainment for us. So, duke it out.
All right, so Isaac just tossed us into the ring and said fight.
Exactly. Go for it.
Well, I mean, I think I've been screaming from the heavens since the beginning that I think that it's overpowered if you can pull off a full attack directly melee directly adjacent to someone, because you can get around 9 damage pretty consistently against a black die character, and I think that's way too high for a 7-point figure. But I also know that the community has spoken. So if and it doesn't seem to have just pulling up the stats here, he isn't dominating everything he touches. So
yeah. All right.
Not sure why you thought we would disagree, because I think the exact same thing.
Oh really? Huh, okay.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, I remember when it came out, I think the first thing I took was Noah's damage curve for Maul with Darksaber, and then I put next to it something like Onar with tools for the job, a focus, and an assassinate. And I'll let you guys, so they're not very different. Basically, Maul walking up has like a, I don't know, non-zero chance of one-shotting Han, which seems a bit much, yeah. Yeah,
and I absolutely get that. So, I guess kind of, because I completely get the argument. So one of my favorite ways to look at this is, yes, he has a above-the-curve damage output for 7 points, but he has below average everything else for 7 points. He's slow as heck. He's got no defensive buffs. Sure, he's got his you can't die until you've activated this round, but if someone that doesn't help you at all if someone snipes you from across the board, you know, not say a static block does. And if we compare him to say Garken, so Garken is I think the mirror opposite of Maul. Garken can move 8 and attack someone with reach, so he's way faster than Maul. He can still perform 2 attacks just like Maul can. He's also way tankier, +1 health and an additional block, and he's a Guardian. Just that alone makes him just really strong. And he's also a brawler, he can do the same tricks, but his attack is obviously a lot worse than Maul's. So I just think that, yes, Maul is really good for his points. Very, very good for his points, but I think his drawbacks are enough, because, if we look at the percentages, how he's done, it's a total of 39 games played, and a win ratio of 61.54%. Now I'm just looking at Maul specifically, which we can probably assume is all in Darksaber. And we see that he's got a 71% win rate in Rebels, we've got a 73% win rate in Empire, but a 47% win rate in Mercs. So
what I think is my issue with Maul is that I think he is overpowered in a game where they're both new players, and I think he's just about balanced in a game with 2 really experienced players.
That is correct. When I played Maul against Derek, also on the steering committee, he just kited Maul correctly, and Maul never got a single attack off. But when I was playing against a newer player, Maul basically won me the game. Yeah.
Which...
wipe everything out.
Yeah, which I can see some issues with, but at the same time, with the risk of me sounding too extreme here, I still think that, learning through those kinds of games is one of the best ways to learn. I mean, one of my biggest turning points as a player was when I played against DT for the first time, and didn't know that you could actually lose a game in round 2, turns out, in like 5 minutes. But I do think that ultimately, you can play around Maul a lot easier than you can play around something, say, Spectre Cell, which was way more broken than Maul is.
Well, I mean, if we're comparing it to Spectre Cell, literally nothing we've ever made is broken.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think we have to compare apples to apples here, not apples to, I don't know, whatever superfruit is cool these days.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, well, speaking of that, as I know, Jake, you've only got about half an hour left. What are your predictions about the upcoming Vassal seasonal tournament? So obviously we've got the Oceanic one happening in a couple of hours, we've got the European one happening now on Sunday, and we got the American one happening next week.
How many players are signed up for each? Do you know? Like, just give me a guesstimate. You don't have to go look up the exact stats.
Yeah. So for the Oceanic one, so far we have 4 registrations, which is, I'm honestly very surprised. I mean,
so
I was speaking
we
with some people beforehand about, because obviously we did create the Oceanic event to give the Oceanic players the opportunity to actually play a tournament, because so far all the online tournaments that have ever been run for Imperial Assault have not really been at times in which has been beneficial towards those players. And now we've done it, and from what I've seen,
well, I mean, like,
we've only
there's
got 1 Oceanic person signed up.
the thing is that the Oceanic time zone has the least amount of players, and also getting people to sign up for a Saturday morning and the majority of a Saturday afternoon is already difficult.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
If you have a smaller base to start with, to also ask for that time commitment.
Yeah,
is when
exactly.
we run into issues.
Yeah, precisely.
So I don't think we can make any conclusions about Oceanic, because what's going to happen there is is probably the most experienced player, whatever they decide to play, is going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But,
so, I mean, so far, the registrations we have is we have Derek going, we have Kyle going, we have Adam going, and then we have Mark Neely going as well. Those are 4 solid players.
Absolutely.
So that's...
So it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if we were to see a tournament of 10 to 12 players where list building will factor in more than just what individual players decide to bring.
Yeah.
I think we'll just looking at the stats here, we would expect to see either a Rebel or Empire list, because Mercenaries have not been doing well in Season 4 or in Season 3. We need to do something about that coming up here. But I think what we would expect to see would be Lando and Loku together have been doing a lot of work.
Correct.
Because if you look on the stats, Loku is far and away the most popular card of Season 4.
Yeah, absolutely. The number of games played are through the roof.
Yeah, so he's the most popular Season 4 card with 70 matches played, which is bonkers when you compare him to the only things more popular are the staples: C-3PO, Gideon, R2, and Zillow.
So that's actually an outdated stat you're looking at. So Noah sent me an updated one just now. He's actually got 111 games played. So I can send you guys...
more popular than Zillow?
That's a good question. Let me see.
Can you forward me that information?
Yep, will do. So he is more popular than Zillow. He has 3 more games played than Zillow Technique, which is insane. So there have been more.
Well, to be fair, he goes in two factions.
That is true. All right, just sending you guys the link on Slack now, real quick. So one to David and one to Jake. So I actually disagree with you there, Jake. I think that Mercenaries are going to do very, very well in the cups coming up. So I wouldn't really say the Oceanic one is a toss-up, because even though we have only 4 players, they're 4 really, really good players. Kyle is one of the best players in the world. Derek is a very strong player and a steering committee member as well. And Mark's great, Adam's great, so I think it's gonna... I don't really think there's any one of those plays that is just going to be, okay, well, that's the best player, so he's definitely going to win. Yeah, honestly, I can see Scum doing very well as well. Even though they haven't been doing very, amazingly during playtests season, they have some really, really good toys. Lion Ambush Trandos with Maul and Bosk has proven to be very effective.
I think Loku does help them out a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, so, and as for the European one, it's 2 days away, so it's still uncertain. So far, I think we've got about 6 players, though. And again, then we've got a lot of high-tier players. So we've got Ollie, who's a member of the steering committee. We've got Noah playing, who's a member of the steering committee. We've got me. We've got David. I think we have a few more registrations or other confirms, but they're slipping my mind right now. So, one unit I actually think is very underestimated, and we might actually see it make a splash, and I spoke about this on the podcast a couple of months ago, is the Saboteurs. And the reason for that is that what did we see do so incredibly well in season 3? Well, that was Queen Spam. Queen Spam absolutely dominated that final tournament, and it did actually dominate the playtest league as well. Tom Parrish was running his Queen Spam list a lot, and Morgan was running his as well. And what exactly do the Saboteurs specialize in? Well, they have the search for PS2. They can use the same search twice. They can get fit PS4. You can throw Loku into the list. You got PS5, and then let's say you maybe got Jared or something to have the J4X. You get a PS6 on an attack.
See, that would require you to run Jared, which nobody does for good reason.
Well, I know some people who do, who will refute your claim there. But no, I mean, he's not great, but still, I mean, PS5, that is what you need to take down Queen Spam. The reason Queen Spam works is because there's so much defensibility you can't get through them in time. But when you are rolling around, because so you've got that list, and then your opponent is running Queen Spam.
You're rolling with Pierce 4, Pierce 5 on a red-yellow dice pool.
I mean, red, yellow, green.
Red, yellow, green. Gotta roll damage.
Yeah, but I mean, it's red, yellow, green because you're going to focus them, and you're probably going to put targeting computer on them. I don't think you can really run Sebs without targeting computer.
Okay, so you have 8 points invested. At what are you? What makes them better than, say? Well, let's look through the list here. See what we can find.
What makes them much better than Maul, the Darksaber?
Exactly.
Well, for one, Maul is very easy to. Maul is very easy to kill. Maul is 12 health black die. Once he's gone, he's gone. Whereas you got 4 of them. Because you're probably. Oh, I guess we're comparing just 1-to-1. So you got 2 of them. They're white die, which means they can dodge. They're a lot faster than Maul. They are ranged, so they don't have to run quite as close. With a plus for accuracy, if you focus them, you're gonna get. Then your minimum accuracy is 5, so you can keep them at, which is pretty nice range. So I think.
So I don't think they're bad, but what if you're shooting your Pierce 5 at someone with the black die that just rolls 1 block?
Well,
that's a lot of wasted resources in your list.
Well, not really, because you've still got other good surges. You got Blast, you got Stun, both of which are very effective.
So I guess I'll ask you the same question. I'll ask you a question: is why would somebody going up against 2 sets of Rebel Saboteurs put them in anywhere where Blast is effective? So, and then I assume any Queen Spam is running Unshakable.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, let's compare the Queen Spam which won the tournament. What's it called? Yeah, which won the last VST in Season 3, which was Vader, Boba, Royal Guards. In that
Royal Guards, which have been nerfed.
Royal Guards, which have been nerfed, but it's really only the Junk Droid combo which has been nerfed. If you want to run the Vader, Boba combo where they are going to be unkillable, you're still going to put the Royal Guards there, because there's nothing else for 9 points which keeps them alive longer. So the Blast is going to dissuade that a little bit, but let's say you're going up against a different Queen Spam. Maybe you are going up against a Vader, Vice, Palpatine list. Well, from my experience with playing against those lists, they do tend to group up a little bit, and if they don't, sure, then you're not going to get the blast off. But, you know, sure, it is a shame that they don't have the search for +2. Obviously, if these guys had a search for +2 instead of the PS2, that would be insane. And that would be obviously more consistent, but I just think this. I think the Saboteurs are a black horse.
I think they will be really good if they surprise somebody. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that you're gonna get off any big, blast
No.
game-winning combos against Tuca, for example.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't expect that either. But at the same time, just having the threat of that blast can fundamentally change a game. I mean, sometimes you will put two figures next to each other because you need to body block or something. And if there's suddenly a huge blast there, and let's not forget priority target is very, very good. And, speed 5 priority target, minimum 5 accuracy when focused. I can see them doing some very, very serious work. Does that mean we are going to see them? No. It just depends whether there are any players who have figured them out. But there's just something about them that I think that if... I mean, they absolutely annihilate Maul. Maul hates stun. And Maul loves standing behind people so that he can then rush forward with his attacks. If you can shoot through someone to get to him and stun him, that's going to shut him down. And Maul obviously can't do anything like Unshakable or something.
So I guess the question for you is, do you think that Queen Spam is going to be a commonly enough played for Saboteurs to make a splash because they aren't as good against, say, a Swarm list of some sort or a Rebel Heroes list? Against those lists, they're not as good. They take more attacks that way. The dodge is... They'll have more opportunities to dodge, but they also have more opportunities to not dodge and take a large amount of damage off of each attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a fair point. I don't think we're going to see a big amount of Queen Spam. Not because it's not good, but because Queen Spam is just unfun to play. I mean, some people enjoy it, and that's fine. But, I mean, Ollie and I designed what we thought was the perfect Queen Spam. We'll see if that holds up. But when we went to the last VST...
I guess, are you going to play it again? Because you're right, I think a lot of people just aren't interested in playing it, even if it's strong.
Exactly, and that's the thing, I do not enjoy playing Queen Spam, so I'm not going to run it. I mean, full honesty, I've been debating between running a Maul Trando list or a Krennic Trooper list. And I think I'll go with Maul Trando just because that's the one I'm more practiced with. Yeah, we'll see. So, I still think they could do some good work. They only give up 3 points when killed as well. They're 7 and 3, which is pretty rare to see outside of Empire. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and looking... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I wasn't really going to add anything.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats. I would say that if I were playing, I would be running a Shore Trooper, Jet Trooper list. So it's very in your face, and I've had a lot of success with it. I think that would have a solid opportunity to win if somebody was playing it. It's just, as far as I can tell, nobody's playing it but me.
Yeah. Okay, but so I guess my question to you would be, Jet Troopers and Shore Troopers, what is your plan when you go up against a Vader and a Boba, both of which have either 2 blocks and a black die, 2 blocks and 2 black die, or 3 blocks and Vader and a black die for defense?
Just glare at them until they concede, because they feel bad.
Yeah, wait, which is the point, because do I think Queen Spam is going to win? No. Is it because Queen Spam isn't good? Absolutely not. The only reason Queen Spam doesn't win is either if a not great player takes Queen Spam and doesn't pilot it well, or if just no one runs it. Because it's not the most enjoyable list to run, even though... Because essentially, the thing that makes Queen Spam so good is because it's right there in the name, queen spam. I mean, the definition of a queen is, I mean, it refers to the chess phenomenon, of where you've got this one figure who is the most powerful figure, and can do anything to anyone from anywhere, more or less. So, yeah, so I mean, I do think that Jake, your list could do very well. But again, if you go against Queen Spam, it'll be interesting. I mean, maybe it depends on the map as well. If you go against Queen Spam on, what's it called? Reconnaissance, that's not going to be a very fun time. But if you were to go up against it on, say, the Senator mission, then that could be something interesting. Alright, well, but enough about the Saboteurs. What else do you guys think is going to... Or what do you guys think is going to do well? Any particular figures?
I think the thing is there's not many. I don't think there's any dark horses that are going to really jump up. I think we have hundreds of games played with the season 4 testing, and I think the cream has risen to the top. I think we're going to see a lot of Loku, a lot of Lando. I think those are going to be our biggest people there. As to, and maybe just looking at the stats here, there's going to be. It looks like there's going to be some Mandalorian, some IG-11. Those are the 4 most popular figures, it looks like. But, so I don't think we're going to see much other than those. I think there might be somebody. David, are you playing in the tournament on Sunday?
Oh,
David, are you there?
David might be AFK for a second, but yes, he is. Or he's looking to, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back. Welcome back.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my internet was being spotty for a minute. Yeah, I'm playing on Sunday.
Okay, so I think we might see a good. I think you or another rogue list builder like you would be our best bet to see a non-popular figure. What I'm curious to hear what you think. I already said what I'd be bringing if I was to be playing, but I'll be judging the American one.
Well, if I'm lazy, I'll probably be playing a 4-act line ambush empire. But I have also been playing around with some beast lists. The problem is the same thing that Isaac was describing, where if you run into queen spam, there's actually a good chance that you just fizzle out and do nothing. So I was playing a testing game with Tom Parrish, who was running triple queens ish. I think it was Boba, IG, Shyla, with as much defense as he could possibly stick in there. And I hit him with a first last act ferocity, squad swarm strength in numbers with all the focuses I'd built up that entire game so far, plus what you call it, wild fury.
Yeah.
And I did 4 damage to Boba Fett. I used my entire hand. Like, I had so few resources, he never even bothered using Headhunter on Boba's flamethrower because there was just no point. Yeah, so that was something like, I don't know, 8 plus attacks straight without him responding that just bounced off.
Yeah, and that is my fear as well, because I love Krennic. Krennic is my favourite figure to come out. I know he's controversial, some people don't like him, I know, Jake, you're not a huge fan of his, but I do think that he can do some work. But and Krennic, arguably, if I'm going to run an Imperial Trooper Swarm list, I probably want Krennic, because if I do go up against Queen Spam, I probably want the ability to being able to add 2 damage to my attacks. But ultimately, I think I'll be going for more
that
Trandos.
helps you. And what's preventing, say, Boba from jetting in, flamethrowing everybody, no surges coming in, especially with his evade, and then murderfying Krennic and jetting out.
I think
Like,
it helps more than
like,
anything
anybody
else
goes-
in his points range. I think that I mean, I don't think that Boba is strong enough just in his raw attack to be able to one-shot.
That's why like you start with the flamethrower, get some damage in, attack, then get out.
that would need some really good cards, and if that happens, it's going to happen. But I don't think that there's any other trooper swarm list which has a better potential, if that makes sense.
I think the reality is that you'll have a bad matchup, but on the other hand, if the list is much more fun to play, you might as well go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I do agree that Trooper Swarm has been one of my favorite, most fun lists to play, and I would run it knowing that I have a unfavorable matchup going into a Queen Spam match. But I also know that those are more rare than, say, your standard Rebel Heroes or another Trooper Spam.
True, but that is also the archetype you are more likely to face in a cut, because whoever runs it is going to go far with it.
True.
Also, so looking at the stats now, ATDP has a 100% win rate from 2 games played, so I guess ATDP OP.
The stats
I think Vader will do quite well, actually, if somebody plays.
Yeah.
Especially if Tuca plays it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I see 9 wins out of 9 games played for Palpatine.
It's not bad.
Yeah, Palpatine OP, and we've known that from the beginning.
Also, CT apparently. Is he the dark horse?
I mean, I've actually been thinking about this. Because now that we've created all of these Guardian buffs, CT is a Guardian. So I have
about that.
I have looked if there is a way to build it. It's just Guardians and Rebels is the roughest faction to build a Guardian list around.
I mean, you also get Karkan in Guardian Rebels, which is pretty badass.
I still don't think Garkhan is good enough. I know we disagree on this one as well. Because, I played it and he's so insanely fast, but he is the opposite of Maul in that he's tankier than Maul, he's faster than Maul, but he hits like a noodle.
A couple of minutes ago, you were trying to convince us Maul wasn't overpowered by saying he was similar to Garkin.
No, but
now you're telling us that he's so far away from Maul.
Well, I mean, yes or no. It's just that Garkin is below the curve in damage output, but above the curve in everything else, and Maul is above the curve in damage output, below the curve in everything else. And the damage output is the most important factor. So I think they're comparable. But I still think that Garkin isn't. I think he's playable. You can play him and do very, very well with him. But I don't think that he's.
Whenever I see Garkon in an enemy list, I always sigh and shake my head because I know it's going to be a pain in the ass. And for some reason, he can roll much better attacks against me than apparently he does against you.
I mean, definitely. I just hate, with a burning passion, I hate having a red-yellow. It doesn't matter what the other dice are. If it has a red and a yellow die in it, and you don't have a reroll, I hate it. Because, Garkin is a 7-point figure, and sometimes he is going to run up, and he's going to roll 1 damage on the red, 1 surge on the yellow, 1 surge on the blue. And his surges are... I shouldn't say that. His surges are bad. This is a stream, so his surges are not great. He's got auto-reach, auto-bleed, which is not bad. But anyway, I think we're getting a little bit off topic.
This is good. I think Rebel Jedi with Channel the Force into Knowledge and Defense is still good.
Right, and that's the thing with these tournaments is that you're no longer required to run Season 4 materials. Yeah. So I think that we're going to see Rebel Jedi, and we're going to see Boba Jets, we're going to see Vader Jets, we're going to see some of the old staples that just didn't get any support in Season 4. They're going to be coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah. That's possible.
How are Wookiees doing? No change, I expect.
Good question.
So the same as usual, so really bad.
Yeah. So 4 games played, 50% win rate. They are 1.22% of the meta share. So, okay, so actually, going back to the Jedi topic, though, do you guys think that there are going to be a lot of Jedi Maul lists? Using Sasuke to pull them in?
No, but that's mainly because I just don't think we have enough players to have a lot of A1 list.
Fair. Do you think we will see it at all?
I tried to make one once upon a time, but it's really hard to find the right balance and what all Jedi you want to use with it. And so I think it's a interesting list building challenge, but in the end, it doesn't come out as powerfully as you would hope it would.
I think it has to be Ezra, Maul, and Kenobi, right? They're the 3 best friends
Oh yeah.
in the Star Wars.
Yeah. So I I've got it right here. Let's see. So I did build a Rebel Maul list on the app, which
I have
designed by
also,
Travis, by
yeah.
the way. Check it out if you haven't already. Let's see. So that would be Han Rangers, Han's Pirates, Jedi Luke, Ollie, Rebel Jedi. Oh yeah, Rebels
I'm
Jedi.
hearing Han.
Yeah, I mean, it's my list build. What do you expect? All right, so it's Ahsoka, Ezra, Kanan, Maul, Hera, Saskia, with 4 points left to spare, and Dark Tib, of course. So, I mean, that was obviously just aiming to be a more thematic list, so, for a learn to play event or something. But I mean, if you were to say replace Ahsoka or Kanan with Diala, because having an extra brawler and being able to get a push off a parting blow is going to be pretty valuable. And then maybe Gideon in there as well, I think could do well. I mean, again, Jedi is a good archetype. We spoke about this in the last podcast. It's a very FOO strategy.
I think just knowledge and defense is great.
Yeah. It is.
It's really straightforward and makes you hard to kill.
Yeah, and also what I think is interesting is that we've barely seen any Jedi players. I mean, let's just look at the numbers. So Diala has only had 24 games played in the end.
I think that's probably because of this effect where they didn't get a lot of support and people are trying to play Season 4 stuff.
Exactly, which is why I think that we might see a sudden surge of these figures coming back. And people will not be sure what to do against them, because now that everyone has learned, okay, if my opponent has line ambush Trandos, I'm doing this. If my opponent has Krennic and something, I'm doing this. If suddenly Jedi show up, they're going to have to think back to what they did against that. I mean, that happened to me when I remember it was back in the FFG days. It was, really late in the meta, and my opponent just suddenly ran 80 DPs and regular Stormtroopers. But we happened to be on the Rogue AI mission, so obviously he won, because it's an auto loss for me, because he had 12 troopers running around picking up the AI. But it's interesting how those older archetypes just can really throw you off guard. Alright, so any other predictions? What else is going to do well?
I'll predict that we won't see a Rancor.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet.
I don't know, so Vader stuff, Rebel Jedi. I actually think we might see some traditional scum.
Could do, yeah. So, and we'll also, see what the participation is. So, obviously, the Oceanic event doesn't look like we're getting a lot of players. The European one, we're getting an okay amount of players. But the American one, I actually think is going to be a lot more significant. As just that, I don't really think that there are more American players, but there are more American players who plays online. I mean, I think we spoke about this just a few days ago, David. Because the UK community has a very, very good IACP community, but they don't play online. There are very, very few people in the UK who actually enjoy playing online that way. And now with everything shutting down, because, I mean, we had an IACP regional last November, and it had 16 participants, which is unheard of anywhere in the world.
Right, yeah, that's great, and I wish we could play live more often. I would, basically, the Minnesota playgroup has fallen apart because nobody wants to risk playing live. And I'm the only person in the Twin Cities basically who plays Vassal regularly.
Exactly. So I mean, really, we just have to hope and pray that people will stick around with it, and once things open up again, they'll take a look at their collection and then, hey, let's give this a roll again. I do think that when all the issues are over with and we can start playing outside again. I just think that having something like, running a lot of learn to play events is going to be critical in ensuring the future of the game. So I'm going to finish the learn to play, or how to run learn to play events article before all of that is over. We'll see when that happens, could be goodness knows how long that is, but I think that'll be a very important part.
So, but yeah, until then, I think I'm not sure what to think of. I can't make any predictions of what will win until I see specific lists. I do think that Queen Spam will be a thing. I also think we're going to see a return of those old archetypes. So that'll be my official punditry, and we'll see how on the nose I am.
Yeah.
I was actually considering playing a list I was calling Double Double for a while, which is just 2 sets of Lothcats and 2 sets of Weakways.
Ooh, Double Double. I remember the Double Double from back in the day was 2 Jets, 2 something else. I forget exactly what it was. 2 Jets, 2 Riots.
Was that the Double Double? I thought that was the Royal Parade.
Oh, that was
you
the
ran
Double Double.
Palpatine with it. Oh, that was Double Double. Okay.
Yeah, that was the good old Double Double. You could run either ATDP or Palpatine with it.
Oh, right, yeah. And I remember there was something called Double Double with cheese. What was that?
That was
Eric.
That was my ex podcast host. So Eric, he was running the Double Double with cheese, which was the ATDP version.
Okay. That's fair. The ATDP is... It's in a weird spot, isn't it?
It really is, because, it was overpowered when we allowed Imperial retrofitting to work with it. But I think the problem with the ATDP is that it just isn't the new hotness.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think those players, because there were some players who did run the HDP very well. The DP did make the top 16 cut at Worlds 2018. And, just those players who really loved the HDP, that don't play IACP anymore. But we are looking to, increase play numbers. I'm actually talking with some of the Italian community, see if we can try and get more of them interested in IACP. Because, language barriers are a thing. Which, luckily enough, we do have some new translators on the team as of recently. So 2 new languages are coming to IACP very soon, so stay tuned for that, everyone. It's very exciting.
What do you two think about the ATRT? Since we're talking about
That
AT.
is my baby.
That is his baby.
It.
That is his baby. So I'm curious to
Yeah,
hear what Jake's saying. Thanks.
Yeah, so the few times I tried it, I think I've been playing a double ATRT, Sabine and Fen, as well as your standard support suite. I actually think they work really well with Fen because Fen's tactical movement ability does not restrict to only small figures. So you can activate Fen, move the ATRT, and do your standard massive figure movement shenanigans of moving the ATRT onto people, getting a bunch of stuff right out of the gate, and then moving from there. So I think it's a very fun combination to use with that. I don't think double ATRT is where it's at, though, because they're so large, they're very hard to... they're pretty much impossible to hide. So having one as a shock trooper to soften up your opponent's front line, because they can put out a lot of damage, especially when focused.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you run them up there, and I also like to run them with Crush and fuel, not fuel upgrade, with Crush and Overrun. So when you're doing that with their, if they double move, they have 10 movement points to just run through and take off of multiple figures just by their movement points alone.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, I think they're pretty fun. They are very gettable, though. I remember wiping one out quite easily with my Lion Ambush drop.
Yeah,
right.
I think having block tokens with them is... I think if you're running at least one of them, they're basically 9-point figure because you're gonna want extra armor.
Absolutely, and that's what went wrong with my last time I ran a double ATRT list, was I dropped extra armor and Hera to put in Loku, which I think I should have dropped Sabine to put in the Loku instead.
I think so too, yeah. Or even Fen. I mean, Fen, I love Fen, again. He's one of my all-time favorite Imperial Assault
He can
characters.
pump out the damage very well for his points. I think he's an overall solid figure. It's just that the Rebel Troopers archetype just isn't there. So
Yeah.
he doesn't have as much synergy. But when you do have him in a list, like I think he's even worth dropping into a list on his own, just because of the damage output he can do and his ability to move people around. And good lord, it is noon. Y'all have an excellent day.
Alrighty.
Right.
Well,
See
thank you very
later.
much for coming on, Jake. See you soon.
Yeah, and final word is everybody remember, ATRTs are badass and use more of them.
Got it. Alright. Take care, mate.
Is CT a trooper?
Yes,
He
he
is,
is.
isn't he?
CT is a Trooper Guardian.
I mean, Fen CT sounds like fun as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can have Fen. You can have CT.
I'm just
Darken as
really
well.
terrified of not having enough over the damage shelf to take out multiple queen pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Which it is. Queen Spam is something we all always have to be afraid of. Ultimately, because I mean we've spoken about it already, but it is such a strong archetype, and the reason it won't do well is because not a lot of people run it.
I think that might be what holds back the ISBs and scout troopers, honestly, because
Yeah.
I think those two are pretty solid units otherwise.
And just in general, list creativity. That's one of my biggest issue with Queen Spam is that it has a similar effect that Vader did when he was first launched. Because a lot of people, have been saying that it was the Hunter wave which really made a lot of things unplayable because you had too much Hunter damage output. It did and it didn't. What really changed things was Vader, because if your list couldn't kill Vader, you were not going to win.
Well, you could at least stun him or do other stuff.
Yeah,
like
sure,
if there's just
sure.
one Vader, you can avoid him. If there's 3 Vaders, that's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is your definition on Queen, because I actually got into this discussion with a friend earlier today, because he's new to the game. He was wondering, what makes or rather I was explaining what makes a queen piece, and why the Royal Guard champion isn't necessarily a queen piece. So I'm curious to hear how you would describe a queen piece.
I think it depends a little bit. So we like to draw the chess analogy, but I don't actually think it's that valid, because in Imperial Assault, when your opponent's pawn tries to take out your queen, it doesn't just die half the time. In chess, any piece can kill the queen quite easily if you misposition them.
True.
I think in IA, it's more about flexibility and power. So the big ones are stuff like I don't know, Han and Vader, where they give you a lot more gameplay options, right?
Yeah.
Whereas as you said, I think the Royal Guard champion is slightly too one-dimensional to really be a queen, because he's really good at doing what he does, but he runs at you and attacks you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
think
that.
that's also why when you're looking at stuff like the ATDP, ATST, you wouldn't think of those really as queen pieces, but you would think that Vice, for example, is a queen piece. And I think it's because the abilities, add so much capability and complexity to your list.
That's a very good point. So, what my definition of Queen had been, I guess kind of up until now, because that's actually a very good point, but I had been looking at him, or rather at it, through the lens of a queen in chess is a figure who can get anyone from pretty much anywhere. And so, a queen
So
piece...
lost cats.
Yes, but they also have to be...
They have to not die when they do it.
Exactly, they have to not die. So, which is where we start diverting from the actual chess analogy, because again, anyone can kill a queen, not an Imperial Assault. So we were talking about the Royal Guard champion and why he isn't a queen. And in my opinion, the reason I wouldn't classify him a queen, even though he is featured in queen spam lists, is because a queen is a figure who can do an insane amount of damage to a figure. And he can't do that. The champion's big strength is that he can perform multiple attacks against different figures, but he doesn't have a reroll. And looking at basically all queens there are in the game, they either have an additional way to deal damage, or a reroll. And having the Royal Guard champion, even though it is very good for 10 points, it's speed 6, it's got 2 defense dice, it's 13 health, which is slightly below the curve for 10 points, I suppose. No, and even that isn't necessarily true.
Yeah, for me, it's less about the damage. I mean, especially with Maul out. Maul's 10 damage against a black die.
Sure, yeah.
Is very queen-like, but I don't think anyone would say Maul is a queen piece.
Mm.
Stuff that can be really straightforward and still be a queen piece, like Luke and IG. But I think that's more because their command cards have such a huge impact that when you can refresh them, they open up so many game options to you that it adds this sort of flexibility.
That's a good point. So, what do you... Just changing the subject, but what do you think about Soren? Do you think we're going to see him at all in the events? Maybe a tank Soren list? Or rather, I should say, do you think we're going to see Soren? And if yes, what archetype? Because obviously Soren is very flexible. You could run him with sentry droids, or you could run him with the big boys. You could run him with ATSTs, or Vice, or HDPs. A tank.
I would say no this time. If we ever get another map where you can shoot the doors, then yes.
Fair. That's fair.
I mean, yeah, so if he starts out with a bunch of droids that just shoot stationary objects and get free focus, then wow, so strong.
That's true. So I've actually seen him do very well in the playtesting. Actually, let's look at his numbers real quick. But I've seen him do very well with sentry droids. So, let's see, we've got...
Yeah, I think sentries are pretty solid.
I definitely agree.
He maybe helps shore up some of their damage shelf weaknesses.
Okay, so Soren has currently 17 games played and a 58% win rate. Which is not bad, and I've seen him do... Because the thing is, sentries... They are good, but their surges aren't stellar. They've got good surges, +1 and PS2 is okay. But them being able to now suddenly stun enemies, or if they oversurge, add more damage, or focus themselves, has turned out... I mean, I played against it with my Maul list and I was destroyed. Because they can do a lot of really good, serious work with them.
Yeah, I mean, the sentry droid win rate is quite low, so I don't know what people are playing Soren with. There might be something interesting there. I do feel the kind of low-cost support-ish figure plus stuff in Empire, that's a new archetype. Low-cost support-ish figure plus other stuff in Empire.
Yeah.
List. That niche is Krennic, if you're thinking about what's stronger.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that too.
I think there's just something... I think it's because you can't front load Soren's abilities as much. So if you want to focus, for example, you can focus, but then you need to shoot them later again.
True, yeah.
Whereas with Krennic and the tokens, you kind of get your benefits right away, and I think that's just slightly more powerful.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And also, Krennic does have, 2 abilities that way, but also Soren does give out more attacks. So, it goes both ways. I do think that Soren is going to be very, very nice, obviously with his tank, because, that's who he came with. But also with the ATST, I can see him do well with. I think having both generals, Vice and Soren, could do some pretty nasty stuff. Because Vice's issue with his attack is that, one, he doesn't have a reroll, so just stick targeting if you don't want, and you fix that. But also that his surges are pretty bad. Double search for Blast 3 means... Okay, so 1 every 10 games where I decide to roll yellow, yellow, green, I'm gonna get it. But that's not every game. And the other thing is, I think, like PS2, which is... Who cares? So being able to stun or add damage, or focus. I mean, a Vice focus is nothing to scoff at.
True.
So, I don't necessarily think we'll see it in the next few tournaments, but I just think it's something to look at going forward.
I think what has been underrated for a long time is Crumb, who you've been playing recently.
Yes, Salacious, with the little combo, which just makes him
Well,
gross.
even combo aside, I mean, his kind of unblockable damage and his amount of health per points is insane.
Yeah, exactly. Because your opponent, they might one-shot him, but then they have to spend a good attack to get him.
Yeah.
And he can play Grizzly, you know, I have seen that freaking Salacious, you know, play Urgency, move 5 spaces, or gain 5 movement points, I should say, and deal 4 damage to a figure.
Yep.
Which is, for a 1-point card, so I do think that if you're going to run Salacious, you probably want to run Jabba, just in my opinion, because it really sucks having the figure who's got Salacious die, and then he's not doing anything.
I mean, you could put him on one of your unkillable queen pieces. That would work nicely.
True.
And you kind of want that extra little presence, you know, if all you have are a couple of big scary guys.
That is true. Because, I mean, who's really going to want to waste an attack, a good attack, because again, 6 health, on a little monkey lizard when...
Yeah, especially when Vader and Boba Fett are standing there looking at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he's quite good.
I agree. And you know, I've really been enjoying running him. He's hit or miss, but I found that he's a lot more hit than he is miss. I just think you have to run him in the right list. If you're not running a brawler list with a bunch of movement cards, I don't really think you should be running him. But he can do some stuff. I mean, if I decide to run my my Maul Trando list, I'll most likely have him in. IG-11, I think, is going to do well as well. He has shown to be very, very, very good. What are your thoughts on IG?
Well, he's kind of like a big Vinto, a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite, because Vinto is for the trick shot pings and all of that.
Same as a IG, but kind of programmed backwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he can output a huge amount of damage with the command cards.
Yes. I mean, whenever your opponent plays Guild Protocols, you just... having 2 focused Han attacks basically go into you, even though his surges are slightly weaker, they're basically on par with Han. Because you got Surge for +2, Surge for PS2, and you got a reroll, compared with Han, who is Surge for +2, Surge for +1, +2 accuracy, and you got a reroll.
Yeah, I think if he's got any weakness, it's just that he's a little easier to kill for the points.
Yes and no, but he is a Guardian, which does help a lot. You know, put some block tokens on him, he's going to have 2 blocks innate every attack.
Yeah.
But he's
and I mean, now that you're not stacking Assassinate with things, it does make it a bit harder.
Exactly, I mean, the thing I like about IG, just from a balancing standpoint, is that he's got really good damage output, but it doesn't turn insane with Hunter cards. And it is difficult to design a not broken non-Hunter figure with a good attack. But I think IG-11's design was done very well. Even though
I think the IG and also Mandalorian are pretty solid. They are sort of that less tricky, you know, straightforward type of figure.
Yeah.
But I think they are just strong enough to be viable there.
I agree. Alrighty, well
Do you think we'll see any of the child?
No. Not unless someone
Probably
is...
not.
Yeah, not unless someone is running a mercenary box list with MHD. Then I could see, you know, you throwing the child in as it's 1 extra health around. But unless you're doing that...
Unless you're doing that, it's all about Salacious.
Yeah, I think Salacious is the better point, to be honest. Which is, you know, it's sad to say. And again, I do think the child has its place, but I don't really think that it's at the same level. Alrighty. Well, I think we'll wrap up here in a second. So, any closing thoughts on Season 4 in general, or your expectations or hopes, I suppose, for the next set of tournaments? And also, again, you know, we're running more Vassal seasonal tournaments in January, which will be the end of Season 4. So, just any
Hopes? I guess my
ideas?
biggest hope is that we get something really weird in Season 5. Because I've been having a lot of fun playing with Lion Ambush, but you know, that's sort of done now, so I'm trying to find the next interesting thing, you know?
Oh my goodness, I just remembered we were supposed to spoil a card today, weren't we? But Jake ran off too early. Uh-oh. Alright, well, in that case, I'll speak with the committee, see if I can't spoil it during next Friday's stream instead. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, alright, well, thanks everyone for coming in. It's a shorter stream today, but just because I'll be streaming for several hours tonight, so I'm going to be way too burned out if, you know, we just play a bunch of games now or something. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and once again, if you have the next couple of hours off and you fancy playing some Imperial Assault in a tournament, which should be great fun because there are some great prizes up for grabs, be sure to give the Oceanic event a look. Just email me or message me directly on Slack or something. I'm sure we can get something going. Well, happy gaming, everyone. I'll see you next week, or in a few hours, depending on if you're here.
Good luck if you're playing.
Indeed.